What is good? So you're probably thinking not responsive design in Duda, and I'm here to tell you you're not alone. I'm gonna go over the best practices to take when you're designing on Duda to know if you should start with desktop and then go down to mobile or vice versa. You know, it can kind of feel like a Rubik's Cube sometimes where you solve one piece and then you do the other piece and then the first piece becomes unsolved. So this video is actually because somebody commented in and throw it up here and said, great video overview. Thank you. And by the way, you guys have been killing it with the support. I very much appreciate the support you've been throwing towards me and the channel. But he went on to say that I have a question that's been bothering me for quite some time concerning Duda. I've been using the platform for over a year and I find it very difficult to optimize my sites for tablet and mobile after getting it to look good on desktop. I always feel it's tough to redesign to the smaller breakpoints without completely ruining the look and flow of my site. Is this something you have found to be accurate, or do you have a certain workflow that makes building websites more straightforward, such as starting on mobile and working your way up to desktop, or maybe hiding sections on specific breakpoints? I'm open to any recommendations to speed up my workflow. Thank you. So thanks again for commenting in, and this is a super valid point. While Duda saves us a bunch of time designing, and it even does so when you're doing responsive design, it's a little bit confusing to understand how the styles work across all the devices. In addition to that, there actually are some limitations within Duda, and I'm going to show you what those are and what Duda is doing to fix those. All right, I thought it'd be appropriate if we start with some official documentation. It's a bit dry. I'm just going to pull out some of the key points from the documentation, and then we're going to go hands-on in the editor, and I'm going to show you all the different scenarios. So this is just to bring everybody up to speed. I'm sure you already know this, but just in case, when you switch between the different versions of the site, quote unquote versions, desktop, tablet, and mobile, it's actually all the same site. So if you delete something from one of the sites, you're actually deleting it from all of them. So don't think that if you delete it on desktop and you go to mobile that it's still going to be on mobile. It's all the same. In addition to that, Duda doesn't use like your typical responsive site. So a typical responsive site, when you collapse the screen down, it'll hide the desktop stuff and then it'll show the mobile menu and stuff like that. Duda doesn't do that. And the reason they don't is actually a really good reason. When you do it that typical way, and when you collapse the screen down and then it shows you the mobile menu, all of the desktop stuff is still there, even though it's hidden. So it's still, the browser still has to download it all, your browser still has to interpret it all, and then it just hides it all. So it's additional stuff that the mobile device has to download, even though it's not using it. So when you're doing mobile optimizations, it's not really optimizing for mobile. And Duda takes a very intelligent approach with this. They understand if it's a desktop or phone coming to the site, and they serve up a very specific optimized site for the given device, which means if you're on desktop and you scale down to mobile, it's not gonna render the mobile device for you. You have to go to the website with whatever device you have to get that version. So you have to go with mobile to get the mobile site. And what that does is if there's any items that are hidden on mobile, those servers won't send you that stuff and just hide them. They just don't send it to you at all. This results in a much faster site. All right, so that's a key point. The next thing here is that the device previews in the editor don't always reflect what you're gonna see on the actual device. From my experience, it's like 99% accurate, but every once in a while there is something that might slip through. So double check on your phone. That's a really good way to validate that everything looks good. Duda also has a list of edits that are device specific, meaning that if you change spacing on one device, it won't change spacing on the other. On the other hand, if you change a border on one device, it will change on the next device. So make note of this list. I'm gonna have all this documentation below. I don't completely trust this list though. For example, font size, I haven't found this to be true. And then they kind of say that there are other edits you can make without affecting other devices too. So it's not a comprehensive list, but it's definitely something to at least take a look at. And then the last thing has to deal with the responsive tablet. So somewhat recently, iPads, which are like the most used tablet out there, decided that they would basically call themselves a desktop and use like all the desktop version of the website. And so the desktop and tablet version are the same website you're getting on Duda, where the mobile one is a different website. You're designing it all in the same editor, but like I was saying, it serves up a one optimized website for desktop and tablet, and then one for mobile. And the desktop and tablet gets really tricky, and we're gonna get into that. All right, so The question from the comment was really good. Do we start on desktop or do we start on mobile and then, do the opposite one? Now there's something called mobile first design, which goes to say that most people are browsing on phones these days. So it makes sense to design for the mobile experience first and then optimize for the desktop. Now, traditionally, people would design for desktop because that was the primary use, but then after mobile started to pick up, there's some initiatives out there to kind of switch the efforts, design for mobile, then desktop. The problem here is that the Duda editor seems to want to start with desktop and then optimize for mobile. I'm totally okay with this. The real primary reason for the mobile first design is that you don't want to make your mobile edits an afterthought where it's like you're just going to quickly throw some stuff together. You really should make sure that the mobile experience is very optimized because typically on most sites, over 50% of your audience will be browsing on mobile. But the Duda editor, and I'll show you why, seems to want to start with desktop and then work your way down to mobile. So let's dive into some scenarios on various edits you can make, why it is the way that we should start on desktop, and then what components are affected on all devices versus which ones are only affected on the device you're editing. All right, I'm going to first start off by showing you this really handy trick that if you didn't know this is going to save you a bunch of stress here. We're going to add the section called text and image and then add this in. So this is a pretty common layout where you alternate the image and text. So we've got image left, then image right, and then text right, text left. And it's really natural for the eyes to kind of zigzag in a Z format back and forth. The problem is when these columns collapse, so we've got the left column and the right column, they naturally collapse with the left one going up top and the right one going below. So on mobile, this would go image, text, text, image, which is a very funky format. So they automatically do this with this pre-made section. I'm going to turn it off here for a second so I can show you what it looks like. So as you're scrolling through, you see image, then back-to-back text, and then image. This format doesn't really flow well on mobile, but so a lot of people might say, okay, well, I'm going to move the column up and now, okay, I've got that format. But the problem is when you go back to desktop, now you've lost the format that you want here, the layout. So let's switch this back, and then you probably picked up on what I was doing before, and this is kind of that Rubik's Cube nature here. But if you edit the row on mobile, there's an option that says reverse column order, and this only affects mobile. So this icon here is something you want to look for throughout the editor, and it lets you know whatever you're doing right there is affecting whatever device displays. The same thing will be true for spacing. Spacing is always device specific, but again, on desktop and tablet, it's all the same spacing. So if we go here, we're going to always see the desktop and tablet icons next to each other, meaning any changes here are going to affect both desktop and tablet. The tablet view is like not that useful except for pretty much one or two areas, which I'm going to show you how to design for them. So reverse column order, very important. That icon determining which device you're impacting is very important. Now let's look at the text editor. This one is an area of confusion, even for me. And I'll show you another reason why we should start on desktop and then work our way down to mobile. So right here we have a default paragraph. It's 16 pixels for font size. If we go down to mobile, it's 15. That's probably because in the design, we have our global text for mobile set to 15. And then if we switch to desktop, this is a bug here. We have to close out, reopen it. It'll say 16. So these are just inheriting the defaults. Now, if we do desktop first design, we're going to take this and say, let's make this a big font, 60 pixels. And now if we go down to mobile, we're going to see not 60, but a scaled up version. So I think what it does here is it keeps the ratio. If it said 16 on desktop, 15 on mobile, and now it's 60 on desktop, it's going to find that ratio, and I guess it's 48 on mobile. So this is a little bit too big for mobile. Maybe it was wrapping or whatever, and we want to reduce it. Let's go 30. Now, if we go back up to desktop, we're going to see our 60 still here. So that's really nice. We do desktop, go down to mobile, make those changes, we're good to go. But we want to make sure desktop is good before we go to mobile because of this. If I then change my mind and say, 60 is too small, let's amp this up and go 96. Perfect. If we go down here, it was 30 before. Now we're going to see that ratio again. So we're back to 77. So we have to make individual changes and say, all right, let's bring this back down to 30, and then desktop will remain the same. Let's add a new one and then do it opposite this time. Start on mobile, We're at 15 pixels. Let's go up to 30. And then on desktop, nothing happened. So the styles seem to cascade down and not up, which is pretty typical in web design. But now if we want to say, let's bring this one up to our preferred 60, and then we go back down to mobile, we've lost our 30, it's now 48. So you can't really do mobile first because of that scenario. As soon as you go to desktop, it's gonna override it. But if you start with desktop, then override on mobile, you're good to go. But any other edits you make on desktop will override your fonts on mobile. All right, let's see what some of the other behaviors are within this text editor. Alignment is a good one to look at. For this purpose, I'm gonna drop this font size down to 30 so we actually can see the alignment here. And then let's say on mobile, we want to do center alignment. We go here, center. This is now device independent, so we can change this one. But now I think if we go right here, it will override this one, or no? Okay, it stays center. So this one even kind of confuses me too, but at least you can have independent alignments because this is common to maybe do a center alignment on mobile and keep desktop the way it is. All right, now let's get into tablet. As you've noticed, I've been going from desktop to mobile, desktop to mobile. Tablet is kind of this weird area. Now, the first thing you'll see when we go here is this message that comes up if you haven't enabled this before. And now it's saying that control site design for large desktops, small desktops, and tablets with layouts that adjust by breakpoint. Mobile layout will not be affected. Now, from what I've seen with this, let's go ahead and enable this. And if you're not seeing that message, you can go to design, site layout, and then this is the option right here that we turned on. Side note too, one of the things that really sucks about this is if you have hidden elements on your site, make sure they are visible before turning on responsive layout. This is really annoying how they did this. I think they should have just automatically converted it. But basically, if you're going in here and saying hide on device, before it used to say hide on tablet, now it says hide on desktop/tablet. And if you enable that setting, it's gonna mess up all of these hidden ones. So you have to go and show all of them before you turn it on. I don't like that implementation, but just side note, if you do have that. Smaller websites, it's okay. I got caught in the middle of a big project where that happened and it just kind of left us with our hands tied. Anyway, so now one of the things we'll notice is when we collapse the screen, the hamburger menu will pull up. I should have showed you this beforehand. If we go and turn this off, and now we do this, there's no hamburger menu. That has been seemingly the main change that happened from this layout change. Now I was hoping what this would enable is something I'm going to demonstrate here. Let's add a background to this row. All right, and then let's actually edit this, and this is just going to be like a crude way to show it, but I'm going to add a sticker. And we'll just do something like this so we can put text on the left side and dark text over white. Very ugly, but we'll just demonstrate this. And then my new paragraph, let's drop this down to something actually reasonable. We're going to get rid of the other paragraph. And then we're going to add some text below it. And then bring this over so it's in the white side, so it's readable. Do it like that. Now what happens is if we go down to tablet, now the text is overlapping the image part and we want to bring it back in. So what I was hoping was that we can make changes like this that only impact the tablet, or say if we want to reduce font size, say if this was like 60 before and it's too big, it's overlapping, and we want to bring it down to 36. It's unfortunately impacting all devices. So I'm really looking forward to the day when Duda releases tablet as a separate styling as the other one. So you can do desktop, it cascades down, and then tablet, it cascades down, and then mobile is the final override, but it's not there yet. The good news is maybe by the time you're even watching this, Duda will have released this. So on their ideas board, which allows us visitors, users to be able to vote up ideas and suggest things that they do with their platform, they have separate desktop and tablet styling options. And the good news is it's in progress. I think it says it's been maybe in progress since March 25th of 2021. So we're, 9 months into that. So I don't really know when this is coming out, but at least they've got their eyes on it and they will release this at some point. But until then, this is unfortunately what you have to do to get around this. So mobile is another one. This is a really good example of how the text just doesn't work with that image. We have to duplicate sections. So I'm going to copy, paste. Now it's unfortunate because in this case, we'll try it with 2 sections, but in some cases we might need one for desktop, tablet, and mobile. All right, so if the first one's going to be for desktop, then the second one's going to be for tablet and mobile. So on this one, I'm going to hide it on desktop, and that means it'll show for tablet and mobile. And then on this one, we want to hide it on mobile and desktop/tablet. Okay, so now just to show you, we have 2 different ones. I'll call this new paragraph 1. And then if I switch over to tablet, we've got new paragraph. And then we'll call this one 2. And then this will be the same one on mobile as well. Now we can see this is really where the big issue is at. So for here, what we can do is create a different image, edit this, find that same sticker, and then we'll center this guy very roughly. And then we'll center these 2. I also wish Duda had shortcuts for text aligning center. That would save us time. And then this always happens too, is sometimes the right click menu doesn't work. Anyway, so we go over to mobile. We're going to need to reduce this font size. Just real rough here. Kind of looks cool in the circle. All right, so we've got that. We've got tablet, and then we've got our desktop. So that's kind of how you can make it work for all 3 devices. This is setting yourself up for forgetting to make changes though, because what happens is if I want to change this new paragraph and don't want to do the number anymore, I think I'm good to go. But then I remember, oh, I have a tablet and a mobile one, sometimes 3, maybe just 2 sections. It helps to have this button so you can see what's what, but you don't want to unhide this because as soon as you do, you would have to re-hide it. So you have to pretty much just go over to whatever device that's on and then change your text on all 3 devices or all 2. And then you're good to go. So I'll try to recap some of the processes I have in my head, or at least how I just naturally go about the flow of designing on Duda. I designed it on desktop first. And if I'm talking about design, I'm building it. Sometimes we have designers work in external programs, maybe Adobe XD or Figma or something like that. And so they can actually start with the mobile first design. But when it comes to actually developing the site, we start with desktop. So there is a little bit of a separation there. If you do still want to focus on mobile being your primary user base, then go for that. But when it comes to developing it, go desktop and then down to mobile. And then not necessarily exactly in that order, because what I was going to say is we've got desktop, I do that. Then I go to mobile, and I usually do that, and then I'll fix up tablet a bit. But tablet is kind of the same as desktop, so you can't really make too many changes in tablet. But what I will do kind of in my head too is keep in mind that fact when you're designing, or if you're working with a designer, so you know that images that are kind of like this are a little bit harder to work with, or you're going to have 2 different sections. So the headers are going to be one of the bigger ones. I would say try to make sure that whatever header you choose, like if it's this, keep it center aligned. That way it works on all devices, and it's a matter of just adjusting the font size, versus if you do like a left aligned one, that's not going to work on mobile because you can't have half the screen dedicated to text. You need the full screen. Another tip, when you are checking your site, there is something that is different between all 3, and that's the menu. So if you're designing out the menu, let's change this logo and put the coffee picture. and we go to desktop. Okay, that's different. So just to show you, I'm going to use different pictures for each one. And then we go to mobile and we have a different logo here. Now, the best bet is to actually upload your logo in the content section under business info, under business images, and you can add the image here. And then let's do a unique one. I might have used that already. So let's do that one. And then we can label it and just call it, like, if you have different ones like logo vertical, horizontal, dark, white, stuff like that, call it whatever it is. But we're just going to call that logo. And then here you right click, connect to data, and then you select the logo. And that way you don't have to do it 3 times. You just have to connect the data. And that way, if you ever want to update your logo, it's on all 3 devices automatically. And then the flyout menus are different too. So when you design out this, it's going to be different on tablet. So make sure you design it out twice. I wish that wasn't the case either, but that is how it is. All right, so you still are going to have limitations within here. In some cases, I'm trying to think of the exact format. I probably should have set this up beforehand, but we might have a border on the right side of a section. So let's just go border right, and then we'll just make this ugly so we can see it. And say this is what we want on desktop. The problem though is when we go down to mobile, border right doesn't make as much sense. You probably want that border below it to keep that separation between the sections. This isn't a good design example, but I'm just demonstrating the fact that if we go here and we scroll down, the mobile icon isn't here. So whatever changes I make right here are going to cascade on all devices. So this is problematic. Now, what I do in this case is I go up here and I click edit HTML and CSS. You do need to know HTML and CSS. It's not difficult. It's just a matter of understanding the basic concept and then memorizing or knowing how to Google certain stuff. So for this, we have general CSS for all devices, and then we have device-specific CSS, which in this case is mobile. And then the other one is going to be desktop and tablet. So you even can't create that differentiation if you're doing custom CSS, unless if you do custom media queries, which allows you to target specific screen sizes within your CSS. But here, I want to say border right 0, and they usually use the important tag here, and then it goes away. And now if I go up to desktop, my border is there. So if you know CSS, that's going to provide a different level of customization. Now, what I will say is if you are very interested in doing custom design on a level that's more than what's provided within Duda and you don't want to dive into CSS, check out Webflow. Webflow is like the top tier designer. I use Duda for most builds, but if I want to create a very custom build, Webflow will allow you to override every single style on every single breakpoint or device, and it allows you to add additional breakpoints too. So if you want like extra large desktop, tablet, mobile, like super small mobile, whatever, you can actually create individual styles for all of them using their builder. Every single style you use is actually device specific. So you start on desktop, it'll cascade down, and then tablet cascades down, mobile is the final one. And everything you do is customized per device. So, you know, if you want to customize a border for only tablet, you can do that. But it does require a bit more knowledge of how the underlying system of like web design works. You kind of have to have an understanding of containers and display, the CSS display property, and some stuff that might require a little bit of research or just playing around with it to understand. So I'll leave my Webflow plug there. Check out the channel if you want to know more about the different builders out there. And I would recommend not just being like an expert in one, but being an expert in multiple, because each platform isn't the best tool for every job. Unless if you are focusing on like one niche and that's that, and you're happy with it, you know, stay with that. I hope this has helped you grasp how the Duda editor works as far as responsive design and mobile design goes. If there is anything else that I didn't cover or you're still a little bit unclear, drop a comment or email me. I'll try to get to it. And if you do have any other questions or whatever, I do appreciate the comments. It helps me create content and gear my content towards the issues that we're all facing when we're building on Duda. I want to thank you guys again for all the support. You guys are killing it, and I appreciate you watching until the end, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.